This video is sponsored by Atlas VPN and Lore Murals, keeping theory and breakdown videos alive since the 2010s.
It be!
Hootie, you keep finding new and impressive ways to creep me out.
I'm not gonna lie to you guys, this episode has no right to be as good as it is. It doesn't hit the same highs as the premiere, but for all the ground this one had to cover, I think it's just another solid entry in my Reasons to Hate Disney book. There's some flaws, but Dana Terrence and her team have done an amazing job taking a 20 episode plan and condensing it down to 3 episodes. I'll never stop giving them credit for it, and for making Hunt Low canon. Can't forget about those dorks. But with all that said, let me just give you my thoughts on the penultimate episode of The Owl House, and saying that will never not put a bad taste in my mouth. Now before we start, we have to have a talk about the 2 massive elephants in the room. I did make a video about the premiere. I know, my bad, I was planning to do something, but then Hello Boss came out immediately after it, and that show pretty much owns my soul, so it got priority. But to summarize, I thought it was fantastic. Moving on, iTunes can go to hell. Yeah, if you didn't know, this episode leaked 2 weeks ago. iTunes has just made it a sport to see just how many important episodes it can leak in a single given year. Considering everything that this show has been through, it kinda just felt like a massive slap to the face. And if you posted spoilers, marked or not, we can't be friends. That's the situation, that's how we started, but please just give me a moment to talk about my sponsor and we'll get to where we're needed. VPNs aren't essential in today's society. Everywhere you go, every website you touch, every click is putting your information at risk. As if it isn't malware, it's ads blotting out your screen. But with Atlas, it's never been easier or cheaper to protect yourself or your sanity. At only $1.99 a month with a 30-day money-back guarantee and a promise to not change the price for 3 years, now is the best time to try a VPN if you've never used one, as Atlas's user interface makes figuring out how to use it a breeze, as with one click you can get access to thousands of servers around the world, making it look like you're in a different country, protecting your data, and giving you access to region-locked content. Letting you cut down on your subscriptions, as what may be on different streaming services in the US might all be on the same one in the UK. Then because living in the US wasn't expensive enough, did you know a lot of the online prices you see every day online are actually way higher than the rest of the world's? For example, you can buy YouTube Premium in India for as little as $1.69 a month, versus in the US, where it's $11.99 a month. Yeah, you can do the math. Discount all your prices, cut down your subscriptions, and you can share it with the whole family. It has never been a better time to try, because right now, they are running a huge discount. You can get a 3-year subscription for just $1.99 a month with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Time is running out though, so get your deal by clicking on the link in the description down below. Doing so will help support my channel and more importantly yourself and your family. Go check it out. Now, back to the video. So, this episode is all about Gus and the rest finally making it back to the Collector's Boiling Isles, and being finally given a chance to deal with all the emotional damage they've been trying to ignore. King Ida and Lilith are also here. Kind of. Belos is up to his old shenanigans, manipulating children, and I'm gonna spend most of this video just going over the characters. Starting with the easy ones. Basha and Kikimora should not be in this episode. Now this episode is primarily a character one. I get that. The story has a lot of characters and not a lot of time to tell it. But the story has to kill the momentum of the premiere a little bit to slow down to let these children angst. But that means we also shouldn't be wasting time with these bitches and Hexside. We have so much ground to cover that having to spend any of it dealing with these 2 playing tyrants on the mess hall kind of just feels like a distraction. Kiki is a joke villain that even on her best day, I can't be bothered to pretend that she's a threat. Hexside as a location is this series' kryptonite. It was funny to be in a less dangerous Hogwarts for a change, but it very quickly overstayed its welcome. And just being here, this being like the resistance, having to deal with these problems, makes the story feel less like it's slowing down and more like it's stalling. With all the actually great character moments having to be shuffled around Kiki ghost riding Belos' stick and Basha hydroplaning character depth. I had forgotten that Basha and Amy used to be friends, mainly because the series never really does anything with that relationship. Willow and Basha have more going on, and they just hate each other. If she's gonna be here, that's the payoff we should be leading into, not the child revolt. It's good that we get a chance to see all these side characters, but everyone is just kinda hanging out till problem, which kinda lowers the tension of the episode way more than it should. Thankfully, everything we get here is great, so it's pretty forgivable. Just like how Amity is a background character in this episode, and it's fine, because she has the one scene that she needed and has already had plenty of time to be in the spotlight. Because now, it's Willow's time to shine. Now, I will go into more detail about Willow and Hunter in a more in-depth video, but for here, I absolutely love Willow as a character. She's grown from the wilting wallflower to the powerhouse leader of her team. Her whole character has always been someone who lifts other people up, and she's always seemed like she's been the one on the upswing, which is why it's important that we see her struggle as much as she does here. Willow has become so used to being the helper, the person everyone can look to for support and leadership, that she doesn't feel like she can lean on others for her own problems. When they were on Earth, everyone was so busy adapting to life that they were able to push off worrying about all the people they left behind on the Boiling Isles. Their friends, their family, except Alador. But now that they're back, the anxiety of what's going on is hitting Willow and Gus hard. Gus is terrified for his dad, with Willow seeing one of hers trapped as a puppet. And she has to just bottle up all those feelings as she feels like she needs to be supporting her friends. She doesn't want to be seen as helpless, and so she does everything that she can to appear strong, to not slip back into being who she used to be, even when it's clearly not healthy. It's why when her attempts to cheer up Hunter don't go exactly as planned, she loses it a little bit and runs off to have a moment away from her friends, because she doesn't feel like she can have this in front of them. And then after being ambushed by Basha, who she has no patience for, those feelings overwhelm her, her powers go out of control, where Hunter, who has not been dealing with Flapjack's death, finally puts his feelings out there instead of worrying how to save them. He and Gus are able to comfort Willow and prove that yes, this is the same scene, revealing that on top of bringing him back to life, Flapjack also gave him his powers, making Hunter possibly part Palisman for all we know, and the reason why all the other ones were following him around was because they could still sense Flap's presence. This whole scene is amazing, as this more than anything else just brings home the tension and despair of what could potentially happen here. That these kids are not doing okay, that they have all these concerns and worries, that even though they're so strong, that worry still eats at them, and solidifies these three as kind of the best friend group in this show. Like, they just got together and they're the most fleshed out ones here. Like, a lot of the time, Looney makes the rest of the team feel like they're kind of just the third wheels. But despite that, these three are the real best friends. This kind of leads into one of my, not just this episode, but just kind of in general. Way too often I feel like there are too many characters and they're all fighting for screen time. As having to cram everything in, Willow's climax comes so quickly after Luz's personal one that it does end up stealing a bit of the spotlight for me. As Luz finally realizes her greatest desire, and we cut so quickly to her getting her Palisman, to then Willow getting her pep talk. I don't think any of these individual scenes really get as much time to breathe as I think they need to really stick with you. Though now that I think about it, I think you can say that about most of Luz's scenes in this episode.
The only thing I've ever really wanted was to be understood.
Camila is amazing here. She already shut down all of her haters in the premiere and continues to kill it. She shines as this awkward mom trying desperately not to freak out at all this craziness, while also being mature enough to recognize how just not okay everyone is. That even if they deal with the Collector, all these kids are gonna need so much therapy. That killed me. See, Luz, in her angst, has decided that everything would have been better if she never went to the Boiling Isles. Because that would mean that she wouldn't have gone back in time to help Belos get the Collector, meaning that everything, in her mind, is her fault. So now that she's trying to convince herself to stay in the human world, that it will all be better, that she'll be with her mom, while Camila is trying to stop her. She's already lived to regret denying part of who she is, denying that she is a massive nerd but hid it from her daughter. So she doesn't want Luz to make the same mistake, and apologizes for not being in Luz's corner when the world was trying to change her. And depending on how damaged your relationship is with your mother, this scene will make you cry. Like, it almost got me. Luz realizing that her greatest wish has never been to be a great witch, but to feel understood hits me so well, but then I feel like we're rushing to get to Luz's Pokemon and Kikimora just pretending to be important. All of these moments could have been the climax of their own episode. It works here, but I do think that people in general are gonna latch onto one of them when they're all meant to be equally impactful. It's still good, and String Bean is adorable, but given the circumstances, I'm not that hung up on it. Unlike Belos, who is very hung up on that brother he murdered. For a character I was so sure was gonna be taking a backseat in the story, Belos has never been more interesting than he is right now, desperately crawling on the ground dying while having visions of his brother. Belos, and I don't want to shock anyone, may not be a good person. He spent centuries planning to commit a mass murder all out of an outdated Puritan belief that witches were evil because Bible. The man discovered another dimension and he somehow found a way to make this all about religion. Yet even though he tries to justify it, the guilt of killing his brother still haunts him. Philip desperately tries to pretend, to deflect blame, saying that he made him do it, that he tried to save his soul. But no matter how much time has gone on, or all the people that he stepped on to get what he wants, his brother and the Golden Guards are the only deaths that cling to his psyche. Also, when they did the Belos Mine episode, I kinda thought the mass skeletons in his closet was metaphorical, not literal. Like he has an entire room full of dead Grimwalkers. Though it does make sense, he's been making these things for years, and he was gonna have to run out of bones eventually from the original, so he's probably been forced to use the previous Grimwalkers to make new ones, creating copies of a copy with Hunter just happening to look exactly like the original. Who, and just to confirm this, Belos has been absorbing flesh to sustain his own, meaning Hunter's scars aren't just left over from being possessed, they're from Belos trying to devour his nephew. It's so dark, I love it. And just like him possessing Rain, it's terrifying. Belos seems to be back on his old strat of manipulating the Collector after failing to possess him, which cool, I think like that's the most logical thing that he can do. But I was hoping for something a little bit more crazy. But I also don't think that I need the heroes to like have this big anime fight against him this time around. We've already gotten that twice, so if this story ends with King convincing the Collector to just be a good guy, I think I'd be fine with it, as I am just way more invested in Belos having a mental breakdown than I am seeing him get his ass kicked. As I need this man to know that everything that he has done has been for nothing, and that he was wrong about everything. Enough of the good things and the minor complaints. Now we come to the thing that bothered me personally about this episode. Let's talk about the Collector. Now, if you watch my season 2 review of the Owl House, you know besides missing the obvious, I was beyond hyped for this guy. This little kid popped into the show, made Belos go from Wendigo to Wendigon, moved the sun with a flick of his finger, and immediately started reshaping the Isles on a whim. The Collector is a god, one so powerful that everyone in the cast doesn't have a chance at defeating him in a straight up fight. But thankfully, he's not too overpowered as he's still a gullible kid, meaning that Luz still has a chance to outsmart him. He's pretty much a PG version of Skull Kid from Majora's Mask, meaning that I was so ready to see what he would do to the Boiling Isles and just see how they were gonna stop him. Then the episode happened, and he kinda felt surprisingly underwhelming. Let me explain. See, the Collector is still a threat. He is clearly the most powerful being in this story. And yet, all the characters he interacts with are just plainly annoyed with him, and that bugs me. Terra Snapdragon, one of the most powerful witches in the show, was so scared for her life that she willingly made a deal to dress up as Ida every day so that the Collector and King would have someone to pretend fight. Yet, the second he starts giving her notes about her performance, she gets pissed and starts saying how she's done with this and calling him a thorn in her side, like, ma'am, yes, this child is annoying and you're probably sick of him, but he's a god. He can rip away your free will and enslave you with a flick of his wrist. You are surrounded by his puppets and have been so for months. Are you really that dumb that you would start talking back to him? And that just makes the Collector feel so much less dangerous than I think he should be. The Collector feels like a character that everyone should be walking on eggshells around. Yeah, he's mostly harmless if you play his games. He's also an immature 10-year-old who doesn't seem to understand the concept of mortality. He's enslaved an entire country to play make-believe. And if you are someone who has survived this long in this situation, it's because you realize the best option was to suck it up, put on a smile, and do whatever the Child King wants. Even the only other non-puppet, Odalia, is doing a horrendous job at hiding that she is done with this kid. Throw in the fact that there is a whole obviously hidden community of people just hanging out at the school, and not in the magical back rooms that the Misfits had. It makes it feel like surviving in this apocalypse isn't really that hard, that the Collector isn't that dangerous. In fact, the Collector feels shockingly manageable. Like it really will just take one conversation, a little bit of empathy to get him to put everything back to normal. I just feel like the Collector, for all the power that he showed off in the finale, has way less presence and has affected it way less than I expected. As the Boiling Isles, it's not really that different. The entire island has been his playground for months, yet the only thing he's really added are stars, then Bonesboro is just abandoned, which just doesn't really hit for me. Belos is the true villain, but the Collector should be the one that everyone is really scared of. I just think that all this combined, Hexside, the Collector, I feel like we're just missing the tension that we need going into the finale. Overall, this is a super solid episode of The Owl House. Better than your average shows, but not one of this one's best. I can't wait to see how the show will wrap up, how it's going to deal with all these lingering characters and stories. Redhead Lilith need more screen time, and Ida and Rain need a happy ending.
Ooh, I like musicians.
That might be my favorite joke of this whole thing. Let me know what you all thought about the episode. Subscribe and follow me on Twitter before the app burns down, and be sure to check out Atlas VPN. Love you all. Peace out.